So here in the communication menu, it's all about connecting up with external devices in a variety of ways. And well, this is going to be a little bit different for me because normally I go through every item in the menu and I'm not going to do that in here. I am going to give you a very good tour, but there is a lot of network connections that we're not going to dive completely into. It kind of would be a scope of a whole nother class, you might say, because there's a lot of different types of computers and networks and systems that you can hook up to, and the way that you do it and get the connections made, well, it would make this one little section as long as the entire class potentially. But I'm going to try to give the vast majority of the R3 owners out there a good review of what is in this particular menu system. And we will do a tour of how to hook up the camera to a phone. All right, first up, we have network settings. And there's a variety of ways that you can hook up to a variety of different types of products. And so using either Ethernet or Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, you can connect up to phones, computers, and other devices out there. So first thing you'll do is come to network settings and dive in here, and there is a large submenu to go through, and we'll take a pretty good tour in here. If you are not going to be doing any of this sort of stuff, you're just going to be out in the field shooting, you can just completely disable this. And that way there's nothing running in the background and you don't need to worry about it. But when it comes time to do those sorts of connections, well, that's where you need to come in and enable this whole network option. Connection settings. All right, so this is going to be connecting either a Wi-Fi or a wired Ethernet connection. And you can have presets for different ways that you connect up with different types of systems that you might be in. So these are all just different presets that you can set up in there. Now, if you want to get in and do the manual setting of all these connections, you can, and this is where we're kind of skipping out a lot of the nitty-gritty details and rabbit holes that you can go down in actually getting these things set up. But this is one of the options along with the connection option settings. I'm not going to get into the exact specifics here, but this is all part of the options of getting in and hooking up to those network settings. If you want to upload to a web service, Canon has their own cloud-based data system. And if you want to set that up, that's going to be all in here. And that is, once again, another whole rabbit hole of features for uploading your images to the internet with Canon's system. Now, if you are going to be hooking up between cameras, there is a way of connecting cameras up and synchronizing the time so that all the images are time-coded correctly so that they might be easier to go with. And so if you are working with a large system, you do want to have all of those cameras time synchronized. It'll probably make it easier to go through those images if they're all going to be worked with in the same database. If there was an error problem, there would be a screen in here showing you what went wrong. If you need to know the MAC address, well, that's here. So that's your basic settings under network settings. Obviously, there's a lot more in there than we have time to go into in this class. Next up is the airplane mode. And this is where the camera can be turned off, all the communication settings, the wireless settings. And so if you just want to quickly turn all that stuff off here, you can. And so for general photographers, most of the time you can leave this turned on, which means it's stopping all of these connections and signals going out from the camera. You obviously need to turn this off when you actually want to, say, remote control the camera from your phone. And so it depends on how you use the camera as to where you want to have this set up. Bluetooth settings are going to be used for connecting up with your phone for remote control or downloading or viewing images. You can also hook up to a remote that Canon has so that if you want to trigger the camera, you can do so with a Bluetooth remote. So first in here, and we'll see this as we want to connect up and control our camera from a phone, is you would need to have this enabled. Normally, leave it disabled. That way it's not wasting battery power. So only use this when you are specifically needing it. You'll go through a pairing process. And so this is where we're going to connect the camera up to your phone. And there are a number of steps, and I'm going to go through all of those steps with you now. Let's run through the basic steps in the keynote, and then we'll do it real world. First up, you need to download the Canon Camera Connect app. At least that's the current app right now. It could change in the future, but that's the app you're going to need on your phone that will control the functions of your camera. On your camera, you're going to need to go into the network settings. You're going to need to turn them on. You're going to need to turn on the Bluetooth settings and go through a pairing request. It's pretty easy to do. Next up on your phone, you're going to need to open the Canon app, and you're going to need to do some more confirmations there that you do want to connect up to a camera. Then back on your camera, you're going to have some more confirmations that you do want to connect up to the phone that you just indicated. And then finally, back on the phone, you're going to be able to go through some more confirmations, and then finally open the Canon Camera Connect app and start doing things like remote live shooting on the camera. You can start changing functions and features of the camera. You can transfer images back and forth, change a select set of custom settings. So let's go ahead and dive in and try to get through this right now. Okay, so what we're going to do first, we've already downloaded the Canon Camera Connect to the phone, so that's set. So we're going to dive into the menu on the camera, and we're going to go to Network Settings, and we're going to enable this so that things are turned on. Come back out of that menu, and we're going to come down to the Bluetooth settings, and we're going to set this up to the smartphone. All right, so it's set up to go to the smartphone, and now we're going to start pairing, and we're going to not do the QR code. You can do that system. It's a different way. We're not going to do it. And so now the camera is kind of set. So we're going to come over here and launch the Canon app, which is right here. And it sees the R3 camera, so I will select it. And I do want to pair with this camera. And it says that it failed, so let's try this again. Go through pairing, do not display. We're going to come through and close this app and then reopen it, see if it works here. We do have the R3 here selected. We're going to go through a pairing option. We're going to come over here to the camera, and it's going to say OK. We're going to click OK here on the camera and then OK on the phone. And it looks like we've got in. It is connecting up with the R3, I can see up there, and we want to go to remote live view shooting. So it is now connecting up via Wi-Fi. It used Bluetooth to kind of do an initial handshake, you might say, but now it's connecting up via Wi-Fi so that we can see what the camera is pointed at through our phone on here. All right, so there we go. So we can see exactly on our phone what is going on over there. We can autofocus if we want. We can take a photo, and you can see that that's actually shooting photos on the camera itself. You can come in and you can control exposure information down here. Change your aperture. Change your shutter speed. A little bright there. All right, there we go. There are additional controls that you can change in here. You can go into the settings. Not a lot to see in there. A variety of controls. We're not going to go through this because this is more of a separate app that changes all the time. And in any case, this is how you can control and take photos. You can then view those photos. You can download them to your phone and have easy access to them. So that's the basics on how it works. As you can see, it's not always perfect, but it is something that can be very useful if you're willing to go through the trouble to get it to work for you. There's some very creative things that you can do with it, and I encourage you to give it a try and see how you can implement it into your type of photography. So if you're going to be doing the pairing with a remote, you would select the remote there, and then you could use the remote to trigger the camera. If you wanted to clear everything, you can go in here and do it. Bluetooth address, generally you don't need it, but if you need it, it's there. So those are your Bluetooth settings. Leave that on disable once again if you're not actually using it or needing it. You can change the name of your camera, and this might be handy if you have lots of Canon cameras or a number of R3 cameras. You can have a specific number or identification to make it easier for you to find that later on. Now you can also receive GPS signals on this camera for data tracking and locating where you shot particular photographs. Now, this is a really cool feature to use, but it is going to use battery power. So you need to kind of really weigh those options as to if it's necessary or not. So generally speaking, I would say leave it disabled unless, once again, you know that you specifically want it. Now you can turn it on, and there are two different modes. There is mode 1 and mode 2. Mode 1 will continue to receive signals even though the camera is turned off to figure out kind of where the camera is. And mode 2, the GPS is off when the camera is off and it uses less battery power. So depends a little bit on what your priorities are. Time setting can be updated via the information from GPS, and GPS has the best time. So it doesn't take much data. So that'd be good if you are using GPS to update the time with that. How often do you want your position updated? Well, once again, this is that battery trade-off. Do you want more accuracy or more battery life? And that's just going to depend a little bit on who you are and what you are doing. Every 15 seconds is pretty reasonable for most people. The GPS information would actually show you specific data of, what latitude and longitude and elevation you were at if it was receiving a signal here. The logger information will show you where information was recorded. So it'll show you pins on a map of exactly where you shot certain photographs. And so as you get in here, you can turn this particular feature on and off if you want to continue to log all these positions into a data file so that you can download the data file and work with it on Canon software later on. You can transfer that to a card and then take that off of the card and put it into your computer where you'll work with it on Canon software. If you want to delete that information, you can delete it here. All right, position data retention. And so how long do you want to hold this information in there? You can set different times. Once again, it's that battery life trade-off. All right, next up, image transfer. So if you want to transfer images either with Ethernet or Wi-Fi, you can do so, and you will set some of those parameters up here as far as what types of images and how they are transferred. And if you want to reset any of your communication settings, you can do so in here. If you've messed up anything prior to this, well, one simple place to reset everything in here. All right, there you go. Communication menu's got a lot of different things going on in there. Hopefully you figured out a little bit of your way around that particular menu.